Chapter 5 The Spy Who Raised Me. It's moments like this with Joey I love the most. Me sitting back on his sofa scrolling through social media and him laying his back against the arm of his feet, resting on my lap. A laptop on his stomach working out some strategies or something for his game this week. I don't know how it all works or what he does exactly, but I could listen to his angelic voice for hours talking about the second thing he loves most in the world after me. Just as I finished liking the 1000th cat video I've seen in the last half hour, I hear Joey make a strange grunt. I ask him if he's alright and he slams his laptop down, crosses his arms and pouts. I tease him for it like I usually do, but he doesn't play back. It's become apparent he's genuinely upset. I lift his legs up off my lap and swivel them round so he's sitting next to me. He moves his laptop to the arm of the sofa and buries his head in hands. I scoot closer and place an arm around him and again ask him what's wrong. It's nothing. It's clearly not. I just can't come up with a play. Brettley Park are one of the strongest teams in the borough. We don't stand a chance. I wish I knew what to say to comfort him. I thought he was looking forward to this game. I had no idea he was so stressed about it. I stare blankly ahead of me, trying to formulate the words, and my eyes fall upon a photo of Joey's late father. I realise why he's so upset. I ask him if he's made any plans to visit his father today, and he looks taken aback. You remembered? I'll admit I couldn't remember the exact date until now, but I knew the anniversary of his passing was coming up. I don't tell that to him, though. Instead, I just nod and say, of course. I thought if I distracted myself with my work, I could just forget it. I ask him how that is working out. Not great. I pull him in closer to me and start stroking his hair. I have no idea what to say to him right now. I've only lost one family member in my life, Grandad Arthur, and that was so long ago I barely remember him alive. It's also a completely different situation because I can at least see him regularly, which gives me an idea. I ask Joey how he'd feel about summoning my granddad and seeing if he could act as a go-between between him and his dad, a seance type situation. Joey jumps up from the sofa. This isn't some game, Charles. He called me Charles. That definitely means he's upset with me. My dad isn't coming back. I've accepted that. You don't need to lord it over me that your granddad gets to come to and fro as he bloody well pleases. That wasn't my intention at all, and I could feel it in the way his heart is beating that Joey knows that. He's just upset, and that's okay. He's every right to be. I apologise for upsetting him, but he turns his back to me. I can see he needs some alone time, so I nod and get up. I tell him I love him as I head back towards the door. As I'm leaving, I bump into Joey's mum, who looks between us and can see her son is upset. What happened? She asks me quietly and goes to explain. And I go to explain, but Joey speaks up. Nothing, Mum, it's fine. He was just leaving. I apologise to her and head towards the front door. As I get to it, Joey's mum steps in front of me, crossing her arms. So you're going to leave him like this? On this day? I try to assure her it's what he wants, and I'll be there when he's ready to talk again, but she's having none of it. Some boyfriend you are. I know she's upset too, but she has no right to speak to me like this. I apologise again and ask her if she would kindly move. She looks at me and begins twitching rapidly. I step back in shock and ask her if she's okay, but she doesn't respond. Instead, she goes stiff and falls to the floor. Her head hits the floorboard so hard it shakes the cabinet next to the door and knocks off a vase. The noise alerts Joey, who comes running in. He falls to his knees next to his mum and grabs her face. What happened? He looks to me desperately, but I have no idea. I've never seen anything like this. Oh, yes, I have. I insist Joey leave her, but of course he doesn't. And I can't blame him, it's his mum. She begins shaking rapidly, forcing Joey back. Mum, what's happening? I grab his arm and pull him away, but he yanks himself away from me and tries rushing to her again. I stick my arm out in front of him as his mum gets onto her hands and knees. Her hair begins pulling itself up into a tight bun at the back of her head. Her shirt begins reshaping itself into the top of a silky black dress, and crisp white gloves appear on her hands. She stands up and her dress falls down to her knees as her sweatpants disappear completely, and smart black heels push her bare feet up on an extra 3 inches. She touches her neck as pearls appear where her gold chain used to be, and she adjusts the new earrings which had just formed on her lobes. Mum? Joey asks confusedly and looks at me with a lost expression that breaks my heart. We both look at his mum astounded as she begins laughing in a deep, aristocratic quality. You've been a naughty boy, Charlemagne, upsetting my darling son the way you have. I see the hatred flood her irises and I gulp. This is definitely not good. Joey grabs my arm, returning the favour from earlier, and drags me back into the living room. He grabs my shoulders and hysterically asks what's happening. I want to tell him everything's going to be okay, but I can't. How? How do I tell him his mum is an archetype? Joey's mum follows us into the room and places a hand against her hip. This boy is not good enough for you, Josiah. You should stay with Mummy. I'll take care of you. I don't know what to do, and neither does Joey. He is my priority right now. His mum begins eyeing up an ornament on the mantelpiece close to the door and shrugs, picking it up and tapping it gently with her index finger. She studies the weight of it in her hand, and next thing I know, it's coming straight for my face. I wake up suspended over the bathtub. I'm gagged and can't cry out as I look over to Joey's mum, who is sitting patiently with her legs crossed and her hands in a prayer formation. Ah, you're awake. She leans back in her chair, inspecting me. Oh, don't worry about my son. He's perfectly safe locked up in his room. I look to the tub below me, which is swarming with hundreds of tiny piranhas. Do you like them? I think they are just the most beautiful creatures. She walks towards me and looks me in the eyes. She gnashes her teeth suddenly, which naturally startles me, and then laughs. Don't get so on edge. They won't bite. At least, not while you're alive. She looks down at them briefly and then back at me to ensure I'm paying attention. You see, these little guys get a bad reputation for eating anything that finds its way into their home, and whilst it is true they can eat human flesh, there has never been any evidence found that they've been the ones responsible for somebody dying. Their mark is always found post-mortem. She taps me on the cheek. You will die, Charlemagne, but from drowning, not from them. The doorbell rings and I look towards the door, hopeful. That will be your mother, Charlemagne. I invited her over to watch. She did what? Well, it's hardly any fun without an audience. I won't be a tick. She turns sharply and struts out the door. I look around for a way out, but nothing. My arms strapped behind my back so tightly that I have to fight my body to keep my blood pressure as normal as I can. It's making me feel woozy and really pushing my blood bending to its limits. I hear murmuring coming from the landing. It's my mum. I think she's complimenting Joey's mum's dress. Thank you so much, Ellen. The new bathtub we have installed is just in here. She walks into the bathroom, followed closely by Mum, who gasps in horror when she notices me. Joey's mum attempts to stick some kind of needle into Mum's arm, but the needle just snaps off the syringe when it touches Mum's thickened skin. Mum grabs Joey's mum by the throat and lifts her in the air. What the hell is going on here, Naomi? Joey's mum, yes, I know her name's Naomi, but it feels weird calling her by her first name to me. Struggles for breath but continues laughing triumphantly. Mum looks to her confused before turning her head to see Joey's mum sipping a small capsule into her ear. Mum drops her to the floor and begins digging into her ear canal, desperately trying to retrieve the capsule. I can feel the blood ready to pour from her ear before I see it. Mum sways back, disorientated, as Joey's mum recomposes herself. Take a seat, Ellen. It'll help you feel better. She smiles and motions for the chair. Mum stumbles towards it. You can tell she, of course, didn't want to, but it's clear from the situation she had no other choice. What did you do to me? Mum demands as Joey's mum begins wrapping some rope around her to keep her in place. It's a dissolvable capsule full of Naegleria fowleri. They preferred to go up the nose, but I had to think fast. Mum looks at her horrified. Don't look at me like that. You'll be fine. Your brain is as tough as rubber. They can't get to it. It was more an elaborate distraction than anything. Was not expecting you to destroy your ear in the process, though. That was a fun twist, and makes me rethink whether you truly are as invulnerable as I first thought. As she's tying the rope around Mum's hands, Mum looks her dead in the eyes. I am invulnerable, but that doesn't mean I can't scar. Joey's mum gives an intrigued, before continuing with, then how come my needle wouldn't pierce your skin? Mum scowls as she explains that the needle was too small to leave a mark. She begins shaking her head as it's clear her damaged ear is irritating her. Fascinating, Joey's mum concludes as she finishes tying Mum up. Now let's get on with the task at hand, shall we? She motions towards me. This would be fun if Joey had been the one tying me up here, but his mother? No, this is just weird. She's grabbing a rope, which I guess is suspending me in the air. I'm not sure. I've never been good with ropes, not like Joey. I look back down to the piranhas and I know I should be scared, but honestly, now I know they won't eat me immediately, it's kind of a mid-plan at best. I would hold my breath, but with this gag in my mouth, it's kind of difficult. I guess that's the point. I look over to Mum just to have one look at her before I pop my clogs. But I'm shocked to see she's not worried. Not in the slightest. That's just rude. At least I thought it was, until I see her arms fiddling with the knot tying her wrists. She breaks free, jumps up and throws the rope around Joey's mum's neck from behind, choking her. She lets go of the rope and I plummet into the water. I wake up coughing on the floor of the bathroom. My balance had been removed and I look up through blurry eyes to see Joey leaning over me. Guess that's that then. I'm dead. Joey mumbles something, but I can't make it out through my waterlogged ears. I yell, "What?" at him, and he replies with, "I asked if you were okay, Chucky, you absolute donut." Oh, guess I'm still alive after all. Guardian Angel Joey wouldn't have such a potty mouth. Well, never mind. He totally would, and I'd have it no other way. He helps me sit up, and I lean against the bathtub. "Charles, thank goodness you're okay." "Dad? What's he doing here? Where's Mum?" "Your dad broke me out." Joey sits down next to me. "Our mums had an epic fight. They fought in here on a landing, fought each other tumbling down the stairs. It was so epic, you should have seen it. They didn't even notice your dad and I standing in the doorway." I put my arm around him instinctively and he pulls away. "Ew, you're wet." "Dirty." I laugh as I pull him back into me and he surrenders to my hold. We forget where we are for a moment until Dad clears his throat. "We need to help your mums. I know they're strong, independent women and don't need us men to help them, but we should at least show our support." I ask how Dad knew we were in trouble and he just says, "Zena." And I nod because that actually makes complete sense. We stand up and dart downstairs. We slide into the living room one by one, our backs brushing against the open door before we drop and roll behind the arm of the sofa. Joe pokes the top of his head up over the arm and reports back what he sees. "Your mum is tied to the kitchen table." "Well, that's not good." "Any sign of your mum, Joey?" Dad asks and Joey shakes his head. "No, it must be some kind of trap." "Oh yeah, it definitely is. But we can't just sit here doing nothing, so we begin crawling along the length of the sofa towards the open dining room. Mum lifts her head up to look at us and rolls her eyes. We realise how ridiculous we look, so we get to our feet, brush ourselves off and scurry over to Mum. As we each grab an appendage to untie, a small red laser dot appears at the bottom of the table, between Mum's legs. I look up to see a laser screwed to a ball joint on the roof, slowly turning towards Mum. We all see it and rush to untie her. Mum is struggling as the light gets closer and closer to her. She's not helping, but I get it. I'd be doing the same if my junk was on the line. Just as the light is about to touch her, we finish untying her and she jumps off the table. The laser stops and we hear laughter coming from Joey's mum's office, which is located in the other room. We slowly approach the closed office door. Joey steps to the front and pushes it open with an eerie creak. The office chair has its back to us as Joey's mum slowly swivels herself round to face us, whilst gently stroking a cat. "Ah, I've been expecting you. What even is my life at this point? Why can't I just have a normal day without any weirdness?" "Mum, where did you get that cat?" The first thing Joey thinks to say. "Found him on the street outside. Thought he enhanced my new aesthetic. His name is Ritz. Come stroke him, darling." Joey steps back to stand next to me. "This has gone on long enough, Naomi. You need to stop." Mum storms forward. Joey's mum places Ritz down on the floor and rises from her seat. "Oh, so you want a round two, Ellen?" She cracks her knuckles. "Bring it." Joey jumps out in front of Mum. "Dang it, I wanted to see this. I already missed the last one. Please don't kill my mum." I see tears forming in his eyes. Dad rushes over to him and places his hands on his shoulders. "Joey, look at me. That woman is not your mother. She's gone. I know she resembles her and speaks like her, but you've seen what she's capable of. Your mum has... She's gone. I'm so sorry." Joey shoves him away and runs to his mum. "No, we can save her. We can reverse this." I look to my parents for hope, but I see none. Just mournful faces, finally feeling the full weight of the situation. Mum takes a bold step forward. "If there were anything we could do, Joey, trust me, we would do it. But we can't. She's gone." Joey looks to his mum, who just stands there checking her nails. "Well, this is a lovely heart-to-heart, but I'm bored now." She bends down and grabs her purse up from off the floor and places it on her desk. "Inside this purse," she carefully reaches in, "we have a lovely little button, which if I press," she places the big red button on the desk, "will blow up this whole town." Joey steps away from her and she begins laughing maniacally. "That's a ridiculous plan. You'll blow yourself up too." Joey's mum raises an eyebrow. "Oh, will I?" She sits herself back down and reaches for the chair's adjuster. Josiah, darling, come sit with me. You don't have to die with these urchins. Joey looks between me and his mum, desperately trying to decide what to do. His mum hovers her hand over the button. We can rule the world, darling. Just you and I, mother and son. Your father would be so proud. That snaps Joey to his senses, and he slaps the button off the desk. Why, you little... The button falls from the desk, in what feels like slow motion, as Mum lunges for it. She grabs it by its base, just as it's about to hit the floor. Phew. Ritz the cat saunters over to investigate, and is about to place his nose to the button before Mum jumps to her feet. Double phew. Joey's in my arms now, burying his head into my chest. Do it, he mumbles into me as his tears soak my shirt. Mum passes the button to Dad and lunges for Joey's mum, punching her with such a force that she flies through the office wall out into the garden. All my focus is on Joey, but I can tell it's all over. I can no longer sense his mum's blood flowing through her body. It's been hours of silence since Mum defeated Joey's mum. He's been fixating on his new friend Ritz. I don't want to be the one to remind him he already has a family that loves him. I can't imagine how he's feeling right now. Joey, Dad clears his throat. Ellen and I were wondering if you wanted to come live with us. Joey doesn't look up from Ritz. Why would I do that? I have a home right here. I can sense his heart beating faster. He's angry. I know that. It's just... I put my hand up to stop Dad and head over to Joey. I kneel next to him and he looks at me with eyes screaming for a cuddle, so I give him just that. He pulls away from me for a moment and I place my hand against his chest. I can feel his heart slowing against my palm. I can't tell if I'm doing it or if he's just naturally calming down. Either way, it's a good sign. Once Joey has calmed down, we let Ritz out through the front door, and he nods at us to say goodbye. I wish Zena was here to translate what he was saying. Joey then comes and sits next to me on the sofa with my parents sitting together on the two seats opposite us. Your father and I went way back, Joey. Dad looks over to the photo of Joey's dad on the mantel. He always wanted a child who he could play football with and teach to shave and all that fatherly stuff I wish I had the chance to do with Charles when he was growing up. Maybe then he'd actually be into footy. Mum elbows him and Joey lets out the cutest laugh I've ever heard. What I want to say is, Joey, your parents loved you, and that love is never going to go away. I lost my dad some time ago. I was slightly older than you are now, but I know how much it hurt. I can't imagine how difficult today must be for you to lose your mother as well. I realise Dad isn't using his charming power. He's speaking from the heart, with his natural voice. If he was calming Joey, he wouldn't be so sad right now. It breaks my heart seeing him just sad. Before your dad passed away, he asked me to look after you, as if you were my own son. I told him that wouldn't be difficult because... My dad takes off his glasses and wipes the tears out of his eyes. Mum places her hand on his knee and takes over. Joey, ever since we've met you, you've been part of this family. We love you just as much as our other children. Remember a few weeks ago when we found out Clarissa was holding you captive? I'd never felt so much fear for another human in all my life. None of us had. Joey, we love you. I know it'll be hard to adjust, but we would really like it if you came home with us. Joey squeezes my hand with a smile and looks over to his parents' wedding photo, sitting comfortably on the wall. Okay, he says, but on one condition. We all looked at him expectantly. Chucky and I can close our bedroom door. Dad snorts as he puts his glasses back on. Oh, I don't know about that. Mum shakes her head, holding in her own laughter, and whispers, Of course you can. Joey places photos of parents on his bedside table, looks at them for a long moment before crawling into bed next to me. I know he's in a lot of pain right now, but I think to myself, at least in this moment he's comfortable, right here in my arms, in my bed, where he belongs.